Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm having special guest Kimber Kiss. So I just wanted to thank you again so much for coming on today to share some of your galactic wisdom. It's really so good to see you. I absolutely adore, love, and cherish your energy so much. And you're the perfect person to talk to right now. So much is coming up right now. So much is relevant in terms of the Orion cosmic human history, and which I feel is where you and I share a cosmic home within the gates of Mintaka. So I know that we both deeply and extensively feel into this Stargate Nation. And I know that Mintaka is what has, it brought us together before. From the last Mintaka video I did, which I looked back at the date and I actually recorded that on Thanksgiving. So I just know that Mintaka is just so fundamentally ingrained into, extensively into, all of just several different profound happenings throughout our entire global history, that it's profound. So I know that this brought us together before, and we both just really seem to hold a very expanded cosmic field. We're both bringing several galactic councils together when we talk, and it's interesting because it does very much mirror and parallel the symbolism of what Mintaka actually stands for, is this unification within this gate. And I feel like every time I talk to you that we're just bringing this cosmic library together.
Yeah, definitely.
And
that's really cool.
Yeah. And of course, this is all relevant again right now as we align to Orion. So we're really very much aligned to the gates of Orion at this time. I would say we're probably right at the Mintakan gate. Would you say we're probably?
That's what I've been feeling. Yeah. Most definitely.
And you can just pick up on it.
Yes.
Yeah. So like I said, again, I'm happy to be talking with you again. And so what's going on with you? I'd love to get your perspective with current Orion updates, and then also in just relevancy to current events and how you're currently seeing the galactic involvement with everything happening right now.
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting. Should I talk about my husband's dream?
Yes, please share. Yeah.
Okay, so my husband had this dream last night, and it's actually interesting. He said he was walking out the door and he saw a snake, and it was trying to attack him. It actually ended up flying towards him. It wrapped around his shoulder and bit him in the neck, the left side. And I was like, this is, really interesting. I wonder how this coincides. So then I was just kind of channeling in, and when I was doing my research on Orion, I kept being drawn to both Onalan and Maisa. And I'm like, what is this? So I'm looking into Maisa, and it said it has, hold on. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm saying this right.
No worries.
Well, it said it had the 3.33 brightness or something like that. So I saw right away the number 333, and that's the number I would always see before meeting my husband. So that's really significant to me. So I'm looking into it, and then the meaning of Maisa means the shining one. So I'm like, what is this with Maisa? And it's right at the top there, like right at the crown of the constellation. And so while I was actually taking a shower and channeling with the water, which is also significant.
Which constellation is it at the top of?
Orion.
Orion, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, what is this with this word? Like, why does it resonate so much? And then I was reflecting into it, and I remembered that one of my first readings that I had ever done for a client, I channeled the name Melissa for him. And I'm like, because the word Melissa means bee. And then what was being sent to attack the bees just recently were those wasps that you had mentioned in your video that you had predicted before this all started occurring.
In the Hydra video, yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, so there's a synchronicity. And then also, he himself, the client that I was doing the reading for, actually was a snake whisperer, to where he could hold snakes. He could talk to them telepathically. They could like exchange information. And I picked up on this right away, and he then told me and sent me some videos of him with actual snakes, like communicating back and forth. Like you could tell they were understanding each other, and these snakes weren't biting him or anything. So I'm like, this is really interesting. So then I started posting a couple of posts up on my Instagram about Maisa. And one of the posts was actually, I typed the word Maisa into Google Translate, and it's the Finnish meaning of Maisa is what it detected means the word paradigms. And then when I posted that post to one of my friends, she wrote that Maisa is like Melissa, just missing the L, but the L stands for the light. And Maisa stands for the shining one. So I'm like, more synchronicities. And then when I was doing more research on Orion, I was looking up how the snake coincided with this whole thing, like the whole message. And what happened was, in the mythology of Orion, Orion was boasting that he could kill all the animals on the planet, just kind of showing off, boasting like, I'm so tough because I'm this big giant hunter warrior and I could kill all the animals. And Mother Gaia got really upset by this and sent the scorpion to attack him. So the scorpion bit him. And Ophiuchus, the snake bearer, came with the antidote of the scorpion bite and gave it to Orion to save his life. So I'm like, that's where the snake ties in. I'm like, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And just to add on to the Maisa or Melissa mythology, the Melusin, the identity of Melusin, which is on the Starbucks coffee cup, it's actually, I think it's a serpent.
You were just talking about that.
Yeah, it's the serpent with like two snake tails, or it's also a fish serpent too.
Yes.
It goes back and forth between both hybrid formations, but that's also coming up within the, Hydra encryption, and then with that representing B, and then having the wasp channeled from the Hydra constellation, because there's actually like exoplanets in the Hydra constellation that are called WASP 24, WASP 25.
Oh my God.
It always aligns up like that. I have another thing to tell you too within the Orion, because I started seeing unicorns in Orion. I've never seen unicorns in Orion before, and my friend Owen then sends me a picture of the Orion constellation, and lo and behold, never ever even noticed this before, there is a unicorn right next to Orion. I'm like, did this just magically
manifest? Yeah, what is that?
Because I literally feel like the stars are painting the reality in my mind as I go.
Ooh, wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then was that there before?
Is this happening? Is this really manifesting before my eyes? It's like shape-shifting itself. That's so cool.
In real time. Yeah.
Wow. Are you referring to Monoceros? Because I know Monoceros is right by there.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And I guess I didn't pay attention to it because I'm seeing it in my vision, and then my vision will back up the information.
Yeah.
And I'm always just mind blown that connection's there.
Yes, because that coincides with everything you were talking about and predicting. So that is so cool.
So the Melusin, the Melissa, that's all. Yeah, it's all definitely very relative. I think it's definitely bringing forth a collective consciousness that we're gaining awareness to, in terms of the dynamics of the relationship between the gate of man and then the gate of God, which is Orion is holding that position at the gate of man, and Ophiuchus, or how do you pronounce it?
Ophiuchus, but maybe it's Ophiuchus. I'm not sure, honestly. Don't quote me either.
Yeah.
One of them.
The
serpent bearer.
but it's interesting how we have these two very strong, powerful, patriarchal, mythologies standing at these two gates. So, I mean, how does her story fit into his story? Where...
Oh, I gotta say something because it's so weird that you said this.
Okay.
I have chills everywhere. Okay, so yesterday I was doing a live stream, right? And one of my friends came in and they were talking about the feminine number and the masculine number. So 6 is the number of man, 9 is the one of feminine. So the 6 and the 9 represent the yin and the yang, the balance, but it's all one. But when I was in the shower channeling, I got that Maisa and Analam were the 2 third eye sources within the constellation of Orion. So I'm like, this is interesting. And then when I was thinking about Orion, how it's shaped like the hourglass, but then there's the belt in between, but it's broken. And you were talking about the breaks in time and how you picked up on all of that. And I'm like, okay, the breaks in time. And then I kept hearing about the mirrors, which you were also talking about, and the water and the reflections, because that was another message that kept coming through yesterday. And I'm like, okay, well, they're like almost mirroring each other here. So it's like the northern and the southern, or the dualistic natures of the constellation within itself, and it's broken. It's like the belt is at a slant and it's distorted. When I was in the shower also, I saw in water on my shower curtain, S. And I immediately thought of Serpent Mound. And I'm like, okay, well, S, and it's showing to the left, like how we would read it in English. But then I'm like, wait, if there was another S, that would complete the infinity symbol. But the infinity symbol is rounded, and it's not all jagged like the Orion constellation. And then I was thinking, okay, well, the S, the left would maybe represent the masculine. Is that how it goes? And then the right is the feminine? They say, because someone came in yesterday and said that they're really well versed in like biblical teachings and things. And Jesus would always talk about think your right thoughts, meaning the feminine thoughts, the right side of the brain. So that's the part that completed the S, but I saw the left. And where did my husband get bit? The left. Okay. So maybe it's like, and he was also talking about the number 666 and how that means destruction and the overpowering of the masculine. So maybe there's something there with the overpowering of the masculine, and now how you said her story, and we need her story, not just his story. So we need the balancing of the feminine to come in to complete that cycle or something. I don't know. Just kidding.
I definitely think it's all hyper relative in terms of what's playing out, on the planet globally. Because I feel like Orion right now is definitely inscribing the manifest destiny at this time at a huge level. It's undeniable. I do feel that the feminine side, though, is on the left side of Orion.
Is it? Okay.
Only because I feel like Betelgeuse is more of the masculine side of Orion. Bellatrix is more like the feminine.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and then also just from JCL training and all of these things, that everything in terms of planetary distortions and all of the JCLs, they're all hooked on the left side of the body, which is considered the feminine 7th tonal line of the body.
Yes, and the attack on the left. The attack was on the left.
Yeah.
So the attack was on the feminine.
Yeah. As it has been for all this time, and we all just have to just eat it and just repetitively. Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's really interesting.
It is. It's kind of at the forefront of the collective consciousness, and I think what we are all ultimately getting from Orion in one level of identity. It's definitely like a chink in the chain, but Orion is just like, it's on this vast expansion of just like hyper diversity is how I keep seeing it.
Yes.
It's
so diverse. It's like, how does it even exist together? when there's so much like diverse energies within each star that resides in it? Like how are they?
I personally feel that we have misinterpreted a lot of things in Orion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because of that hourglass, observation is
Yeah.
that does represent that polarity, that duality, that reflection or that refraction of all of these different perspectives. So maybe the gift of Orion is that we can see through that perception in there, but I think that maybe the totality of Orion is ultimately unified under one.
Yes. And we're seeing through the distortions of it, so that way we can repair that break in time or that distortion.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's
wow.
definitely so much more that I think is going to be continuously revealed in terms of like Orion's, the time perceptions, the rip in time, the wall in time. I think that there's just so much distortion in cosmic history in terms of where this rip in time came from, that ultimately it wasn't Lyra, but actually it's been hidden in Orion.
Yes.
And we're coming to
that resonated so much. Like when you state these things and you channel these things that just resonate, like I literally just get chills everywhere. And when you just spoke that, I just had chills everywhere. So yeah.
I literally see like time warping around you when you get the chills. I think that's ultimately what it is. I think that's ultimately what it is there's from Orion, here's the dissolution. I think that there's been and this is what I talked about in the last energy update, was there's been an overriding of the pillar gates. And believe it or not, lo and behold, because I didn't even know this was there before I discovered it, because this is how it works. But the 12th Stargate, the 12th dimensional Stargate, when the pillars are overrided, according to the Ascension Glossary, is held by China.
I saw that you said that, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Like, it all makes so much sense.
That they would be running 12D currents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It does only make sense, because how else would that diversification actually truly function under physical matter in universal laws if it wasn't functioning at full capacity? Within all of these mutated or synthesized genes, because
look what just happened that you had predicted as well through the channeling of Zion China that you had picked up. Like it all coincides. It all makes sense. And the new technologies that you were talking about that Orion's associated with as well, I feel like that's because I keep seeing, remember how I told you I keep seeing like the molecules and the hive and like the DNA and all of that, and I keep seeing it everywhere, and I'm like, what is the reason for this? And it just makes sense with the new technologies and everything. I feel like there's some sort of technology within the molecular structure of whatever they're working on, and that's why I keep like picking up that message, and you were too, with those the same like structures.
The honeycomb structures.
The honeycomb,
The honeycomb. That brings us back to Hydra, back to Melusin. Like it's almost like I almost feel like that. See, this is why I feel like Hydra is just so important. The history that we're like just beginning to reveal from the rebirth of Hydra into the collective consciousness is, I think, bringing this attention to the hive mind. It's bringing the intent, and I keep calling it an arc hive mind, and I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
Arc?
I keep calling it arc hive mind.
Wow.
The archive. Like almost.
Archive.
Archive, yeah.
I have chills. Okay.
Yeah.
Archive, like the archives, the original archives.
It's the original archives. Yeah.
And then they're safe within Orion that we were talking about before. It's just interesting. It's really interesting. And Mintaka, we were talking about how it does hold all the original archives as well. They must coincide somehow.
Well, it's interesting because every time that we go through like a planetary alignment or astrological alignment with Orion, like I feel like I just get deeper insight into the functionality of the like governmental nation, like almost like how they're governing themselves. And what I was kind of seeing is that if the Stargate Nations, because of their historical covenants with civilizational, because here's the thing, I think that the cosmic history Stargate covenants, when you hear that covenants or coalitions or agreements were made between Orions and Arcturians, Orions and Sirians, Orions and Lyrans, that these actually parallel the covenants between nations, actual nations, because I think that the Stargate Nations are governing the nations on Earth, and that galactic ascendancy or like higher cosmic formations are actually governing the fundamental processes behind the nations. And that's how we get more quantified within
wow. I love that. Yes. That is so awesome. But it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So when you look at China and you look at how they're running themselves, like, and then you kind of like look at that in comparison to the Orion Stargate Nation.
Yes.
So I've been looking really deeply into China, and it's kind of like, well, they operate under communism, but then they also operate under technocracy. But they also operate under democracy. They also operate under meritocracy. So it's like we have all these different spheres of justices that are operating within Orion under a one-party system almost.
Wow. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So this is why they are incomparable to any other nation right now, because they're so fundamentally solidified in just the functionality of justice within human existence.
Yeah.
So
and the diversity.
Yeah.
All within one.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, wow. Yeah.
It's intense, but it's it's relative. It's relative.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then how you were channeling the Centaurs with Africa, that resonated so much to me too. And how you were also mentioned how China and Africa have that deal where China's offering Africa those different programs and things, and it's interesting how they coincide.
Yes. Do you resonate with like Africa being the Stargate nation and location of like Alpha Centauri? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, me too. I keep seeing that because it's interesting. Before I put that Alpha Centauri video out, I was talking about that the rise would come from the misfits, the criminals, the gladiators, because I kept seeing Rome. I kept seeing like how with the gladiators that they were basically fighting for freedom. They had to fight in the gladiator wars to get their freedom, and that we're just like rerunning that program. And then, but to come to find out, the Centaurs have been involved all along. They actually came in after the Grail quest of Arthur.
Oh my gosh.
They've been fundamentally, involved in
wow.
I think the rising and falling of Atlantis, that pattern of the of the entirety the whole time. It's just that being able to identify which occult Stargate nations have been, fundamentally writing the reality
and running the show.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and that, that makes so much sense. Like the rise and the fall, and the rise and the fall, and the rise and the fall. I've been picking up a lot on Rome too, like this year. So that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's also been a DNA activation that's gone out collectively that is awakening the Grail Keepers.
Yeah.
So we had
that.
yeah, we had guardians, and then we had gatekeepers, and then we had grid keepers, and now we have Grail Keepers.
Grail Keepers, yeah. It's a lot. And it was like, it's just like that ripple, that wave. Yeah.
It's almost like it's another, it's almost like guardianship is a 12D DNA activation. Gatekeeper is a 12D activation. They're all 12D activations that just encrypt the molecules or the molecular level of the archive, and you then access more of the bone identity, which is where the Grail is kept. It's inside the honeycombs of the bones. Oh my gosh!
Yes, and you were talking about that and the skull and the bones and how that's going to be coming up more and more and more. And it's like, that's like the innate structure. That's the innate structure.
To the Grail, to the protein.
Yeah.
And the Grail is relevant. It's so relevant right now.
I've been seeing, like, ever since I watched that video of yours about the skull and the bones, I've had songs come up that, like, my husband's been listening to in the car, and I take a picture of it because they literally talk about, like, the holes in the skull and, like, the bones. And I'm like, okay. Can we get any more synchronistic here? It's interesting.
It is interesting because, like, if you think about just the method of communication between what we're returning back to the genetic mother sun, what we're returning back to Gaia in terms of information, like our bones are, it's almost like handing in your resume when you're done or something with something. It's almost like, well, here's what we did. Here,
yes.
You know, when you decompose back to the earth, it's like, this is what I collected. This is, you know, and then this is the form of how we evolve the race species within the collective mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's intense. Yes. That resonates so much. Yeah. It's weird too, like, I don't know why I keep going back to this, but like the way that Orion is structured is so, like, it's almost broken, like broken bones.
Yeah.
There's something there with the bones and the molecules and it's a lot. I'm picking up.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely quantified. It's definitely quantified reality, where it's like we're literally identifying, like, every part of, like, cosmic human history, every reference point of civilizational existence, every parallel that could have ever, or alternate reality that could have ever existed based upon the smallest quantified structures of our own body. Like, everything's just literally written inside of us. Like, we are the covenant contract. My bones are the covenant contract. You know, I don't need to access I don't need to have been abducted to access the truest Holy Grail, or the what are they called? The Emerald Covenant. I don't, because it's already written inside of me within a quantified spectrum. And so it's just like learning how to access that. It's definitely a development that you have to work at to make conscious. But
as you're talking, it's just like the downloads just like are flying in left and right, and I'm just like, I'm focusing on you and I'm listening to you, but it's like these little whispers in my ear, like, yes, listen, oh, and then there's this, and then there's this, and you can connect this, and I'm like, hold on.
Well, I'm just so excited to talk to you, like, just in general, it's so easily, it's so natural, just because I know that you really, like, fully understand, and then can, like, taper off of that and extend off of that. So it's a pleasure to get your perspective, and then also to see you resonate, because it, like, helps me to see that, like, yes, I'm not just saying this stuff, and because sometimes some of the stuff you're putting out there, you don't know how people are going to take it, how people are going to respond to it. It is,
you're breaking the paradigms. You're breaking the paradigms.
Yes.
In order to bring it back to whole again. We're breaking the paradigms in order to bring it back to whole again. That's why the constellation Orion looks so jagged, right? The breaking of time, the breaking of bones. And then when I was channeling the infinity symbol with the letter S and then the other S, we're bringing it back to its initial structure. We're bringing everything back to how it once was, but we're learning how distorted everything is in the collective consciousness and galactic consciousness that you channel. And we're learning how to bring all of this distortion back into whole again, back into its original foundation.
Exactly. And just as you said that, I got another download. I was like, we're through overriding, we've overridden the pillar gates. This is what, when I went to California, to Malibu Beach, to anchor in that Christos 4-person pillar,
that was intense.
I know. Was it not intense? Yes. I mean, I was riding a high for like 2 weeks.
Do you know what happened to me? Well, I'll let you finish. I'll tell you what happened to me while I was watching it.
Yeah, I want to know. I really do want to know. Well, with the overriding of the pillar gates, we're actually resetting the cosmic clocks to pre-fall of Atlantis, to pre-memory. That's,
yes.
It's huge.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yeah, I'm like gonna cry because
I know, right? It's just like
it's just, with everything that I channeled this last year, like, do you understand like how much that means to me? Like, because I kept getting, with like one of my close friends, we kept getting all these messages about time and the clocks and this huge clock and Big Ben. And we're like, what is all this with the time? What now? It's starting to fall into place. Like, we're starting to understand. And you just said it right there. Like, boom, we're resetting the clocks to the original time.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is a beautiful thing. It's just, it's hopeful.
Yes.
It's hopeful. And I think that with the realization that Orion is running 12D currents, is going to restore the integrity of humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that too, for sure. And I never even noticed before that Orion is in the shape of an hourglass. I never had noticed that before.
I didn't even put that together until you just said it. Literally.
No, you did though. You already put out that video.
Oh, I did?
The hourglass in your video.
See,
I thought you already knew that.
Well, I did, but I didn't like put it together. You know what I mean? It's like,
you already knew it innately. Because you mentioned the breaks in time. You already predicted this, like, I'm talking months ago.
But when you just said in this conversation, the hourglass, and then I just realized the actual structure of Orion, like, oh, it is the hourglass. Like, I literally had a second, like, revelation, like, oh, yeah. So you just made that really aware for me. So, yeah.
And the affinity symbol is the hourglass. It's the smooth hourglass. It's not jagged. It's not broken. It's the perfect original structure of the hourglass.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like reforming. Maybe it's like molding. I don't know. Maybe it's molding and reforming into that.
Maybe the stars are shifting and aligning in a new position themselves.
Yeah. Or something's happening there, because like how you had said you never noticed the unicorn, like within that, and how it's like almost like shifting in a way, or is it just our consciousness is like shifting so much to the where we're realizing that, but also like how you had mentioned, is it Betelgeuse that could implode or explode?
Yeah.
They're saying the same thing about Alnilam, because I was looking into Alnilam this morning, and they said it's turning, or it has turned into like a red supernova or something, and the ultimate fate of Alnilam is explosion. It's going to do the same thing that Betelgeuse is.
Wow.
So
wow.
what is happening?
Yeah, what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of changes happening with, well, it makes you wonder how it could coincide or symbolically affect just the realities that are playing out, you know, here on Earth in terms of like warfare. I always go into warfare because it's so prevalent right now. And I did want to kind of clarify this too, is just that I know some of my videos can kind of like make people question like, what side is she working on? You know, I've had that come up, like, are you on the side of light? Are you on the side of darkness? What are you trying to promote here? And it's kind of like
the truth.
Exactly. And it's I do channel the apocalyptic realities. I do deeply go into the subconscious and the unconscious dynamics of what the collective fields are telling me within each of these density structures. And so it takes me on a lot of, you know, journeys of just really going into the depth of it. And it's not I don't know how to make it
prettier than what it is, right?
Exactly.
The reality of it. Yeah,
exactly.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah
So it's always intense.
That's a lot that you're channeling. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's hard when it isn't always of the light, but it's like we need to shine the light on it.
Exactly. The only way to assist it with any type of movement in a direction is to basically just, like you said, shine light on it, or not. I don't like to use the word expose. I was going to use that word, but it's kind
of like transmute.
Yeah. Make the unconscious conscious, the unseen seen.
Yeah. So that way we can transmute it, because otherwise we wouldn't even know it was there in the first place.
I kind of just wanted to get back to the point with the Centaurs too. Just because, what have you been picking up on in terms of the Centaurs? I just kind of want to get your overall.
It made a lot of sense with everything that you had been channeling, with how they were rising, but it wasn't going to be the war that we would originally think of when we think of war. It's like the rise up of all, like the misfits and like the gangs and like the rioting, and then lo and behold, look what had happened. and then it's interesting because how you were talking about how because you had messaged me and you were talking about how the Centaurs were being taken under the wing of Orion, and how with Mintaka being there and everything, how it's like the consciousness is going to start to unify back together. It's going to come back. We're going to come back together. And it was right around that time that you had messaged me. I had just seen a video on Instagram of the riots happening, and there were like these two groups of like huge rioters, and they actually all came together. They weren't fighting each other. They just came together and were like cheering each other on. So I'm like, that's a sigh of relief. Hopefully that's the movement that we're going to start slowly seeing happening and going into.
Yeah, like it's like a collective repairing process of split bloodlines is kind of how I see it, because we have this like inherent I feel like it's a greater consciousness. It's almost like each bloodline or each just, and I want to say royalty bloodlines. And when I say royalty bloodlines, I mean that each bloodline is royal in its own level of spectrum, and that there is a level of hierarchy within every single bloodline.
Wow.
On the planet. And the reason why I say that is because when I look at the Centaurs' involvement in humanity, I seen it like full spectrum. Like I seen where they are now and then where they're going to be in like 300 years, and why they're doing what they are doing now and what they're working towards, and that the Centaurs are supposed to out-evolve Orion.
Oh, wow.
And that's why they are being trained by Orion, because it's the only nation that has the technological advancements that the Centaurs are going to need for the future. And
wow.
And this is what I didn't know either. I didn't realize that Orion was holding the highest level of development of artificial intelligence, equating to the molecular structure that you were just saying of the honeycomb, and but that they truly are the ones that are holding this information. And I kept thinking before, like in all of over the last 2 years of my research into Arcturus, I thought that Arcturus was holding that information just because they're the most technologically advanced, all of this stuff. But I keep feeling that Arcturian involvement is beyond hominoid. Even though they are here in hominoid form, that they are like supreme divine angelic shapeshifters, and they go from usually like an angelic to like a ET or an ultra terrestrial, that they don't dabble in like the hominoid reality field to a point that they would be like reconstructing the level of artificial intelligence on the planet
that we're seeing now. So that makes sense that it would be Orion.
Yeah, because it's like, who else?
Yeah, and why are we picking up so much on that? And why is everything on the planet coinciding with Orion? Everything is.
Yeah.
And Centaurus. It's all coinciding. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's major cosmic news as we keep on moving forward.
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I feel somewhat reassured though by the Centaurians' involvement.
I do too, because I picked up on that right away, and there's not really like words to explain that. It felt like, okay, well this feels right. Like this feels like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to play out, and it's just kind of like that feeling, that resonance. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, you know how like I pick up on the apocalyptic, reality of that. So not that it's happening now, but like the development into World War IV, and this is where I get nervous about Arcturian involvement, is just because the collaboration of all of the information that they all bring forth is like a development in a machine, that there's like some stigma that we are not human beings, we are part of a machine, and that there is this cosmic force that's just trying to build the machine. Like we're just trying to build this, like I keep seeing like this big space machine.
It's weird that you said that, because we were watching TV earlier and I saw like this big machine on TV. So it's just when you said machine right away, I was like, that's interesting. Yeah. Because we don't want to lose, like, we don't want to lose who we are. Like we don't, it's just, it's that gray area of, I don't know, I guess like ethics and non-ethics, or do you understand what I'm saying? Like with artificial intelligence, it's like, we don't want the complete takeover of that, because then it's all mechanical. It's not the soul, because the soul is so much more than just the mechanics.
Absolutely. No, you're totally right. And I think that's what ultimately the Guardian Nations stand for. And I think that's kind of, when you come into all this information, that's usually what I have found as like the most common path to celestial ascension, is that most people kind of come into that guardian consciousness at the beginning of galactic awareness, because it is a part of the imprint, or the organic or original angelic human imprint, to hold that guardianship. And when you look at like what the Lyrans have done and what Andromeda is doing here in terms of the development of humanity, they are the ones. I mean, Andromeda specifically because they are the aquatic future, that they uphold the commandments, they uphold human moral behavior, they uphold everything that we uphold ourselves to, and in golden written inscription inside of our body. Like, it's literally like it's already
like we're the chalice.
Yes,
because you had talked about the golden inscriptions within the chalices. So yeah. I just, when you said that within the body and how it's already written within the body, sorry, I picked up on that. The chalice.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what I've been seeing with this Grail Keeper DNA activation, is the chalices under the water formations.
Yeah.
That there are 12 chalices underneath the Stargate locations that are underneath the waters.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
This is weird. This is weird, Amanda. Wait, hold on. This is weird, because like one of my friends, her daughter had channeled something. I'm not going to name names or anything, but she had channeled that I was from Africa and that I was on the swim team and that I received a golden trophy. So Africa, swim team Lemuria, Africa, Centaurs, golden trophy, chalice. It's interesting.
It's literally like we're just being handed
like pieces of information. We have to put it all together. Yeah.
But yeah, Africa is the new emerging world. I think it's the new emerging world, and it will be, it's in like the beginning developmental phases because of pole shift and because of the positives going negative and the negatives going positive, that the melanated lineages will be on the uprise. And so they have to establish a connection with Orion. And Orion, the hierarchy of Orion, the technocratic minds of Orion are, I think, well aware of that development, because they're already in the future. And and so it's the future is already playing out. We're just depending on the reality field, or the frequency that you can identify on, is how you can see it. And it takes a while to develop global awareness, like global continental awareness. It's definitely you have to expand certain portions of the mind, and it's hard. It's not
because the continents are broken. The continents are separated. The bones. And we're bringing it back to its original formation. Because weren't they all connected at one point?
Yes. Pangea.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Pangea is the original Lemuria?
I do. When you said that, I was like, yeah. It has to be.
It has to, right?
It has to be. It has to be.
It has to.
It has to. It's the only thing that makes sense. In my mind, at least.
I agree, because if you try to filter through all of the literature that's been written up until this point about Lemuria, does it not conflict? Locations conflict.
Mhm.
Just the stories conflict, but then if you
Yeah.
actually just start researching, it's kind of like, well, what makes sense in terms of consciousness and or even just galactic common sense, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that that yeah
Wow.
and that maybe those separation points were like the first fragmentations, and what bothers me is that Atlantis kind of, I feel like, holds everything from that separation point until now underneath its
Mm.
behavior pattern or collective
Right.
revelation.
Mhm.
That the separation process in itself is held in a time warp.
Yeah.
That we just, keep reaccessing or replaying within,
The
certain
pattern.
levels of reality. Definitely a process of transcending all of that, for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't know
Yeah.
what's going with that one, but
Well, it's interesting too because I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it's weird because when you were talking about Pangea and how originally it was all this, it was all one, it was all connected together. The constellations are all separate. What if them too, some at one point were all together,
right? That
all
would
connected?
that would make sense. That would make sense. That they've no, I mean, yeah, I definitely and
I got that message like the beginning of time, like the beginning of time, the beginning of time, the beginning of time. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm just receiving things and I'm just letting them flow out.
Yeah, I definitely could I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah.
Well, because even if you look at the beginning formations of several other clusters and galaxies that are in, different levels of evolution and phases in their cosmic history, everything does start bunched together. Everything, like even the nebulas and the plasma, they all seem to be kind of
All together in like a
yeah.
cluster.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. It's
Yeah.
just interesting. It's just, I don't know. It's like I keep hearing like the breaking of time, like the breaking of the bones. And it's like the skeletal structure, the foundation. And then it's like, what do the constellations look like? They look like bones, like that was the original structure, but now they're all broken apart. And so are the continents. It's like the reflection of that. It just, I don't know. It's just
No, I,
interesting.
I think you're right, because I think that the stars themselves, how we interpret them as our human connection, that it is such a quantified perception within the base level of your light body, that it is the radial navigation between the bone structures.
Oh,
That's literally almost how I see it all the time in a
yeah.
holographic format, is that
Yeah.
the Stargate themselves are just the spheres within that navigation of the radial bone template.
Yes. The spheres of justice.
Exactly. And that's why it's so primal. And that's why it's almost so foundational to a point that I guess the human mind, an untrained human mind, cannot identify it.
Yeah.
And
That
if
makes sense.
because if we could, we would have already dissected it and
Yeah.
put it at the forefront of our collective intelligence fields.
But perhaps that's what's being hidden from us for a reason, because they want that separation.
Right. Right.
They don't want us to unify. It's interesting,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And like all the records, like how you were talking about, like how all the records have been hidden from us. A lot of them have been hidden, or we've been taught in educational systems the distorted versions of what they want us to think in order to control and keep that playing out in the field. Because what we think and what we know and what we talk about, in a sense, is creating our reality. And they know that. And I think that's why they perpetuate the separation and they perpetuate the distorted knowledge. Because if we were to know the truth, would they be in existence anymore?
That's so true.
Would they not be transmuted into the one? It's interesting.
It is interesting. It's making me think of the riots and how, and this is what I was just, and this is the hard thing. Race wars are a hard thing to talk about.
They're terrible. Yeah. It's like, you just don't want to go there. You just don't, because it's so much dark and so much pain and so much suffering and injustice. There's no justice there.
It definitely feels like a very like an uphill into the darkest levels of the shadow we go, and who's prepared to be able to actually really be able to look at it from a place of neutrality. I think what I was like, the point I was trying to make was, because I kept seeing the crossed spears, and then I realized that it was the flag of Scotland. And then I realized that, oh crap, it's the Confederate flag. And then I realized
they took that away. Did you know that?
Yeah. And it was in NASCAR Bandit and
the spears. You kept seeing the spears.
Yeah. But who specifically took it away? Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. My husband, I don't watch the news. He does, but he told me that they banned that flag, the Confederate flag.
Okay. Well, I think that's interesting, because the more that I look into it, Scotland, that's the flag of Scotland. And when you look into that, then there's all of this, like, even more deeper distortion that Edinburgh, Scotland, was that true Jerusalem, and that the actual Hebrew Israelites and the monarchy, the UK monarchy, stole that from Scotland. And Scotland's national animal was the unicorns. And so on the
wow,
exactly. And on the gates of the Buckingham Palace is the unicorn chains. The unicorn has been chained up because it represents slavery. So Scotland has been under the slavery of the UK, but the bloodline of Scotland represents the Confederate flag here in the United States. So it's the bloodline of the Scots that are fighting for freedom and liberation. And then we have the like Native Americans. I don't know how to properly address them. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how to properly address their heritage in the most respectful way. Like, I don't know how to express that anymore based upon the color of my own skin. Like, and I know this is such a sensitive subject. Like, this is why I said I don't like talking about it, but it's like, how do I appropriately talk about it? Because that's ultimately how I would like to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like their grail is fighting for slavery. The Scots are fighting for slavery, but they don't realize that they're pitted against each other in the civil unrest, and they're both fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're both perceived as a bad guy in their own reflection towards one another.
Reflection. Yep. Yeah.
So that's just, it's deep. It's really deep.
Yeah. What was this? They removed the seal on the Buckingham Palace gates, right? Was that the seal they removed?
Mm-hmm.
What was on that seal again? Because I can't remember. Do you remember? Was it the winged horse or something, or was it a unicorn? Or
yeah, I think it's the same as the UK passport. I think it's, but
okay.
I could be wrong, so like don't quote me on it. But I think it was the same thing. I know there's a lot of distortions right now that are playing out about the world of the Queen.
Yes. Yeah. It's really odd. The whole thing is really odd and off. And we know it because we can sense truth. Like we know.
Yeah.
Something is definitely amiss.
And something doesn't really feel right with this new guy, Joseph Gregory Shalit, that's claiming to be the new king. Something just does not feel right about that to me.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's interesting. It's like, okay, where did this person come from and why? Why him? And like, what encryptions and bloodlines does he carry? You know, it's interesting.
Yeah. It would be interesting if a king were to take over the monarchy. Like what would that symbolically mean if a king took over during the time of the feminine uprising?
I'm scared to find out, honestly.
And why was a queen ruling during the time of patriarchal submission, collective submission to the patriarchy? Why was a queen ruling?
Yeah.
I would like to know what the queen would have to say about all this, to be honest with you.
I would too.
It's definitely beneficial, though, I think, to stay up on the information as much as possible.
Yeah.
I know there's so many different extremes of that that we can kind of go down, but I think the overall piece is just to really stay informed at this time, because you definitely don't want to be unaware and have all of this progression move forward and you just don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a fine line of needing to stay informed, but then also taking care of your own spiritual, emotional, and mental health, and knowing and when to pull away and focus on that self-work that's just so crucial and important to like maintaining your own like spiritual integrity.
Yeah. It's just about finding that balance and kind of just what works for you. But I've been noticing that I've had to do a lot of that recently, just like getting outside, getting sun, getting grounded, and just taking better care of myself. That's been like a huge thing that I've just been having to implement, just because there's just so much energies and so much coming in, and lots of downloads, like how you were saying, the DNA activations recently. There's just so many things that like, and it's not just me, it's like other people too are talking about how they're just integrating so much. There's just so much, and it's just a lot. And then not even just physically with what we're going through now, but it's like the cosmic downloads and the cosmic integrations and what we're channeling. It's just, it's a heck of a lot.
It really is, because I think once you connect the physical body to the cosmic body and you come through, if we see it in terms of light ray spectrum and what we are coming to perceive in levels of consciousness from that integration of particular frequencies from the light spectrum, the cosmic body is connected to the diamond light, the platinum light, the white light, the golden light.
Mm-hmm.
Those completely rewrite your molecular encoding, and they bring forth so much information that there's so much that like electrical burnouts. I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Fried mind for like 2 months.
Yeah. That's been happening to me a lot recently, which is why I've had to kind of just step back and just when I'm feeling called to do something, then I will, but I've been really having to surrender to everything because I've been getting so burnt out, and it's just a lot, I think, right now, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm on board with you on that. It's
Yeah.
it's the awareness of our health, I think, became a major, just with the pandemic. The
Yes.
pandemic just blew that out of the water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We had no other choice but to really go within and look within and look at our own bodies and our own health, and change a lot of things, perhaps, or implement a lot of new things too. There's a lot more awareness there, I think, for everyone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot. But I have noticed, definitely, like getting outside, getting grounded to earth, getting sun, that has helped me tremendously with the burnout, or with the mental overload, or the upgrades or the integrations, like what we've been channeling. We've all been feeling it. We've all been, channeling it on different levels. And I really feel like that's like one of the best things you can do, is just getting outside with Mother Nature and just grounding and connecting to the earth.
Yeah.
It helps tremendously. So much.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a necessity if you're going through physical body ascension, most definitely, or any form of ascension, period. Or just, even if you're not, but if you are having like a lot of physical ascension symptoms, where you're actually physically sick, it is definitely a necessity, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was interesting too, because I don't want to forget about talking about this, when you had done that activation when you were in California. That wasn't it? Yeah, California. That most recent one that you did with the Trinity Gates. It was interesting because I was watching that with my daughter, and we were like just laying on the floor, and I got so activated to the point where it was like I wasn't even here anymore. It was the weirdest feeling. I was laying on the floor, but I felt like I was immersed in like a pillar of light, and I was like connected to the cosmos and also connected to the core of the earth, but I could not feel the floor underneath me. Like I felt like I was literally just floating there. Wow. I've never had an experience like that before, ever. So it was definitely, while watching it and receiving the activations, it was very, very activating for me. And it was interesting because like my daughter kept wanting to hold my hand during that whole activation of me watching it, because she was kind of like watching it off and on between her show and then what I was playing on my phone. And she kept looking back and watching it, and she kept wanting to hold my hand. So I just let her hold my hand. And then it's like this whole like activation just occurred, and it felt like I was floating there. And then it was interesting because the next day I think I had done like a collective reading, and I had pulled a card for my starseed deck, and it was like, in the world, you're in the world but not of this world. So like in this world but not of the world. And it showed a girl, and it's like this ball of light. I can find it really quick actually and show you, because it's interesting, because it's exactly what I had felt during that activation. And I pulled the card exactly the day after doing it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so synchronistic. But let me find it.
I'd love to see. Well, the whole intention of that is that the actual encodement comes through the video, because we were at the gate site. So it's kind of like, my ultimate goal would be to be able to travel to all of the gate sites and do activations at all of them.
That'd be amazing.
Be able to travel all over the world, go to the gate sites, do the activations, be able to bring that,
energy back.
Yeah, actually do the work. And it's tricky. It's hard because I have to coordinate and navigate travel, find places to stay that, and a lot of my patrons been phenomenal in terms of providing me with some of that support. But that definitely is the goal, and the mission is to be able to get to the gates and perform.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
I want to too. I want to go with you.
I know. Come. One that I am trying to plan. So I just want to say hello to Sabrina Ramirez. I love you so much. So we're trying to coordinate a gate site activation at 2 of the sites. One is in Manhattan and one is in Staten Island, and actually get to the Statue of Liberty to do it.
Wow.
But apparently it's all closed down right now, so we're hoping, I don't know if it'll ever get opened back up or when, so we're kind of playing it by ear, but it's definitely would be, I think,
wow,
a priority to get to the Statue of Liberty to do that.
Wow.
So that would be the next one, hopefully August, September.
So what is at the Statue of Liberty?
In terms of vortexes?
Yeah.
There is one is a Trinity Gate and one is a Mother Art Gate. I can't remember which one, but it's either Manhattan or Staten Island.
So why is the Statue of Liberty marking that?
I feel like it's in between. I could be wrong.
Really?
I think
it's interesting though. It's like, why did they place it there?
Right. Well,
it's just interesting because you hear so much contradicting information just about just the Statue of Liberty.
I almost feel like the Statue of Liberty is hosted by Andromeda.
Okay.
Because Andromeda holds all of the covenants. Every covenant that's ever been inscribed, period, has come from Andromeda. So that I mean, if you even think about it's the princess chained in space.
oh yeah, that's right. And it's consisted of trillions of stars, like trillions. Isn't that it's M31, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we're supposed to ascend into, the next level, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
M31.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of connection. I feel like it would be a very powerful activation in terms of plugging or strengthening the connection pieces from Andromeda to the Mother Arcs to the Trinity Gate.
Wow. That would be amazing. Yeah. Because you're involving all that energy. Wow.
And you're not too far from New York, being in Ohio.
Yeah, right. I'm not. This is that card. So it's the Earth card, and it says, learning how to be human in the world, but not of it. And if you look, there's like a girl, and she's like in this pillar of light, like floating. And that's exactly the activation I received when I watched your activation. So I'm like, and I pulled this the day after that. I'm like, okay, there's that.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
It's really I have to tell you, yeah, after that activation, it was definitely, there was a lot that I had to clear.
Yeah.
Because coming into, I think when you go into the Trinity Gate sites, they're just so thick with the phantom connections, with the phantom matrix connections, and how it's playing out in the physical, how it's actually manifesting. It's actually manifesting at those gate sites. So
is that like the wormholes where they're feeding off of that energy or trying to access it? Okay.
I feel that it's definitely, there's definitely wormholes. Harvesting. Yeah. So soul harvesting is intense. It's intense.
Wow. How does how does that work? The soul harvesting, because I've heard that so much, and I guess I don't fully understand. Is that where they just feed off the energy of the collective?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's definitely. Well, I think within the Trinity Gates, it's a process of trifurcated realities, which sounds like unification, but there's imbalances in it. What I was seeing, and that there's actually portions of the collective masses that are falling into like a phantom parallel within those trifurcated realities. And so they're
like the mirroring,
yeah,
like the alternate dimension. It's interesting. Oh,
but because the unconsciousness is imbalanced within that trifurcation, that it's like a zombie apocalypse. It's like you know, people just they can't see it. So, and it's just, you know, it's a lot of genetically modified people, a lot of empty seaters, a lot of soulless people, a lot of abducted people, and just empty shells.
Like, and you can feel that from people too. I mean, just going about wherever you're going, you can kind of sense like what's empty, what's not empty, what's empty, what's not empty. And like it's so interesting too, because we're in this year, right, of 2020, the 2020 clear seeing, 2020 clear vision. So maybe that's why all of this uprising, because we're trying to slice through like the distortion and to clearly see what has been hidden from us for so long. And maybe that's what's causing all of this chaos and all of the stuff to rise in order, so that way it wakes up more people, so that way they can see it. And but it's like, are they even acknowledging that, or are they even aware of that themselves? Like, are they able to? And I want to like put that out there, manifest that they are like able to see through the distortions, because even some of my friends who maybe even weren't aware of some of the things, you know, within the news, or like the distorted things that like really go on behind the scenes, are actually like awakening and seeing through what's being programmed into us, the fear programming, the falsity of it, or the falsity of the programs, and what's actually playing out behind the scenes. It's like it's being brought more and more to light. So hopefully, because this is supposed to be that year for that, so maybe that's why everything's
I think
out.
It's going to play out from 2020 to 2022.
Okay.
I that's what I keep seeing, is that the next 2 years are going to be, we're going to be through the thick of the slicing.
Okay.
So, and then I think it's going to even out after that. A lot of my apocalyptic visions bring me into, I kept seeing the fall of the Tower of Babel, like entering Babylon, going
the tower card.
Yeah. Oh, I kept getting it.
Yeah.
I got it like 3 times in a reading. I kept getting the death card with 10 of wands, 10 of cups.
Wow.
I was like, oh, you know, it's so immense that it's just, it's intense.
Wow.
But I think that, like you said, the truth being exposed, also the vaccination campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this is what I was just talking about with Owen, what is that those who are in charge of the vaccinations are the forefathers of the master geneticists.
Okay.
The ones that are the eugenic programs and the gates. Mm-hmm. The gates. Exactly.
It's weird because like I was watching that video of yours and I'm like, okay, well this coincides with everything. And I kept like referring back to this one time where I was with a friend, and it's really kind of not related, but it does tie in. But we were ghost hunting. Like, this was when I used to do that back in the day. And there was this family that this person knew, and their name was the Gates. And we picked up like with an EVP, like a spirit literally saying the Gates. And then I kept hearing that, like, this keeps coming up and it keeps playing back, the Gates, the Gates, the Gates. And it's like this long S at the end of it, almost like like a snake. And then my friend told me that she heard the word come through. One of the first things that she ever heard clairaudiently was hydrus. So it's like, it's just interesting. It's, I don't know, it has to coincide somehow. Like the serpent knowledge, the serpent wisdom, like getting back to the beginning again, like revealing what has always been the truth, and now we're seeing through the falsity of everything, and we're trying to get back to that original place of truth through the distortions. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that brings us full circle again, because Malusin is on the Starbucks cup.
Yeah, she's on the Starbucks cup.
And I don't know if it's Gates or his father or who it is, but they own Starbucks. Somehow Gates is connected to owning Starbucks. I don't know specifically. I've read it before somewhere.
It wouldn't surprise me. So at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what does she represent again? Is she a mermaid, or is she like a sea monster, or is she just like, because she's got two fins, is that just representing the duality? Because she's striped, like black and white, black and white. Does she just represent duality, or the splitting of the feminine and the masculine, or like, or is it all of it? Maybe, I don't know. I always wondered, like, what is this creature on the coffee cup?
I know that she.
And now that I know that, like you said, they spray Roundup on it, and like I literally drink it and I get sick afterwards.
So were you getting sick before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too. For years. I
go to a naturopathic doctor. I have extreme allergies to mold and to fungus, which is really interesting. I don't have the gene that fights it off like normal people. So I get sick a lot. And usually when I'm sick, they put you on antibiotics, but the antibiotics are like a a mold-based pill. So yes, they do work for like certain infections and things like that. But a lot of the times when I'm sick and it's like a sore throat or like nasally or stomach stuff, it's like the mold. And so she told me that they're notorious for having like mold on their coffee, like in their coffee. Like it's weird. Like because she can literally test it. She can test it, and she's found many, many, many times in the coffee. And not so much other places. Like she's tested like Dunkin' Donuts and other places, and they don't have like the mold in the coffee, but like it's like somehow it's like grown or formed on their coffee. And she said you like really stay away from that. But she's aware of the Roundup being sprayed on the wheat, which is why people are having celiac disease. She's aware of like all the stuff that's in the vaccines. Like there's monkey cells. And
your naturalist doctor?
Yeah.
And she confirmed that Monsanto Roundup was in Starbucks coffee.
She didn't confirm that, but she on the wheat, yes. Roundup was sprayed on the wheat. She has articles upon articles, and that's why people have celiac disease or the gluten. It's not necessarily the gluten, it's what's being sprayed on it. People do have gluten allergies, but it's like, why is it so prevalent now? All of a sudden out of nowhere. Right. And when did this start? When did this Roundup spray start? Yeah. And all the lawsuits about how it causes cancer and people spraying it on all the crops and who's in charge of that? What is his name? Monsanto?
Monsanto.
And the GMOs, Monsanto. And the GMOs, it's really bad. It's really bad, and they're in power, so they control all of which that is produced. So I think it's like important for people to grow their own gardens and get back to like
I think it's unfathomable that the people that are doing this don't get away with war crimes against humanity.
Because it's literally murder.
It literally is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. But we're seeing it, right? We're seeing it now. Finally. Yeah. Well, we're becoming more aware of it. I think more and more people are becoming. And I've also been seeing a lot of chemtrails right when this virus started. So that was interesting to me, like tons of them, tons of chemtrails like sprayed in the sky. And I'm like really like sensitive to like observing things like that. And I like, even by where I live, like tons of chemtrails being sprayed in the sky right around the time that like the virus pandemic was breaking out. And I'm like, what, how do these coincide? What is up with this?
Yeah.
Like, this is interesting. And then the 5G rollout, that's interesting too, because that's another theory with the radiation and all of that as well. And why did they call it a cell phone? A cell phone? Because it interferes with our cellular structure. And why is the blue light emitted from it, which causes insomnia and causes all these other things to mess with our innate circadian rhythm? It's like all this stuff to keep us separated from the natural organic way of living.
Yeah.
And it's like they know what they're doing. I mean, you can call it conspiracy, but honestly, I think it's like the truth being revealed.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Conspiracy was labeled under the JFK assassination as people who are presenting truth to crazy. Yeah. But yeah, you're totally right with that blue ray. That's why I mean, that's something that I've been talking about for a while is this blue. It's a blue ray reconfiguration, whether it's being used in the terms of good or bad, but the blue ray, I think out of all the creation rays, because it's the first primal ray, is under similarly to like how Orion is under so much diversification of whether it's being attacked or exploited or shown in a good light or a bad light, whatever. Like it's the same for this ray.
It's being like distorted and like manipulated with. And it's just interesting because like the Project Bluebeam that we were talking about, Project Bluebeam, and how people are saying now that they could like technically from the satellites that are up there bring a hologram down onto Earth to make it look real. There's like actual like video stuff of like that like kind of occurring and like different noises, different visuals. It's really interesting. Why are these occurring now all of a sudden and being brought to light? And they were rolling out during, I think the one video that I sent you was like during a storm. And he kept hearing screaming in the background. And then there was like a light beam and there was like different formations in the light beam that he could see while the lightning was happening. So it's like, are they playing with something here? Are they practicing something before they roll it out? It's like, yeah, you could consider that conspiracy too, but it's just like, what's really going on? It's interesting to think about.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree that I think that's what's coming up more for it to be revealed is what's actually happening within that blue ray spectrum. I think we're just starting to hit the tip of the iceberg on it of how in depth that actually goes into what's playing out. And so I think that's going to continuously be revealed more through the Aldebaran star system, because I think that with the bull, there's definitely something going on with the bull is coming up in so many different ways.
Okay, that's weird that you said that. I just recently did a collab with another girl, and Laura from Palladian Healer, and she brought up Aldebaran. She kept bringing up Aldebaran, and I was like, I wish I knew more about Aldebaran so I could talk more about it. But isn't Aldebaran considered, isn't that the arrow that Orion shoots? Or is that a bull?
I might have to look into.
Isn't it right? I think it's in between. I think it's in between. I think it's Orion and then Aldebaran and then Taurus. I'm pretty sure. I think I wrote it down even.
I think it goes.
Yeah, it's Orion here, and then Aldebaran is over here, and then Taurus here. Okay. So they're like all right next to each other, pretty much. And that keeps coming up, Aldebaran. So like, it's what's up with that? Why does that keep coming up?
Well, I think that Aldebaran is it's the star family of Archangel Michael.
Oh, and you were talking about the blue flame. The Amaria.
The Amareya passages.
Yeah, what is that? Because I was going to Google that before I came on and I completely forgot to. It kept coming through while I was in the shower about that. I was like,
the Amareya passages, I think, awaken planetarily when there's been like a pillar activation, and it does have to do with the passages of the blue ray.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this is one thing. I want to design like some visualization where we're actually bringing the blue ray up into the body from the planet to help, like, solidify the overall healing of the blue ray, and then how the natural frequencies of the blue ray will overcome a lot of this like corruption that's within this star system. I think that this also has to do with the fact
need to do that. Definitely, because that's like getting back to the purity of it and clearing it from all the distortions.
But there's also been draconic invasion into the Aldebaran star system. That this is what we're seeing too, is that not only draconic but also amphibious. There's actually like these like pleomorphic identities.
Yeah. It's so weird that you were referring to Kiku, right, with Bill Gates, and that's the pleomorphic, shape-shifting, new kind of like hybridization that they've been like experimenting with and like presenting.
I think it's always been here. It's just been highly unidentifiable. It's because they morph according to their agenda. They operate before pre-universal law.
Wow.
So it literally it's viral intelligence.
Wow.
Where it doesn't need a physical form to survive. It doesn't even need a physical form.
Wow.
So I think that the Keku identity just embodies based upon viral mutation too.
Yeah.
There's something in terms of the viral encoding that it is able to. Yeah.
Weird.
No, it's crazy, huh?
And the virus, like how it forms as a hive too. You were talking about how it puts up its walls and it's for its own survival and how it like behaves. It's interesting.
Yeah. That it almost leads you to believe that we're just infected with different forms of viruses that are unidentifiable, and that there is a viral collective that we're unaware of that's actually controlling things. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Multiple viral infections that we haven't been able to diagnose, basically.
Yeah. Because why are they so uncurable, and why aren't we able to find like the actual like originations of the one that has spread out to the all differentiations of the other ones? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Weird. And then like with the draconian thing, like and how Elon Musk just launched that spaceship, and it's actually called the Dragon, and there's parts on the ship that are literally called Draco, Super Draco, and different parts on the ship.
Wow.
I just found out. Interesting. That are literally labeled like that. And there's an interview with him. I don't know. I think it was maybe Joe Rogan or someone interviewed Elon Musk, and I was curious about him, just to like pick up his vibe and see what I got from him. And I started watching, and I couldn't get through all of it because I'm like, it just felt off and like distorted. But he was talking about how he named one of the ships he named something after the ship, and it's the Archangel. It's called like the Archangel or something, or Archangel 12. I just remember him saying like Archangel and the number 12. Do you know what that means?
No, not specifically related to that.
Because I wasn't sure if it was like related to like Nibiru, but Nibiru is 11, right? I think Nibiru.
I think Nibiru is represented by Stargate 11 on the planet.
Yeah. I wonder what Archangel 12 is, or why he was like kept praising this like Archangel 12 or something. I'll send you the video like later on.
Some of the things
It.
that I was picking up in accordance to that, when it comes to some of these like apocalyptic realities that
Such fun.
I'm forced to witness. I've been seeing for a long time, I feel like I've been following the Nephilim patterns, and some of the things that have come to me in dreams is the Nephilim are shackled and chained inside of the earth, that there's actually like prison confinements inside of the earth where they keep them chained up. And I've seen that there are actual, and I think this has to do with the fall of Atlantis and the crystal of Atlantis, that the Nephilim are pissed off because they feel that we've stolen these crystals. And so the release of the Nephilim from inside of Earth, therefore, projects them into the astral, projects them into the heavens. And I kept seeing the Nephilim actually walking around as giants inside of the heavens. And then I fast forward to my visions of seeing like World War IV. And
Wow.
World War IV is going to be, it's going to be a satellite war. It's going to be AI versus AI, that humans will be actually taken out of the equation. We're just going to be like, what's going on up there, guys? Like,
oh my God.
And so it's interesting now that you're telling me that they're actually naming the satellites archangels and dragons, because it's almost like it's prophetizing this war.
Yeah.
Almost on some level.
Yeah. That's like predicting what you were getting. It's weird because I wrote something down like about, there was something that they said having to do with Orion and the Nephilim or Nephilim. Those are the giants, right? Are those the original angels? And like angelic species? I'm not sure. Or are they just like the giants?
I think it depends on like what you read. I think in terms of the Bible, the Nephilim are the fallen.
Okay, they're the fallen ones.
Yeah.
The fallen angels.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know why they're fallen. Why were they fallen? What happened? Or was that just like a collective choice to like go against? I just want to know.
I'm trying to remember. I think it has something to do with what they came here for. Like they were supposed to be like really evil and were like eating people and like.
Oh, they were like breeding with the humans, weren't they? And like ripping their heads off and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the hornets are doing to the bees.
Yes.
Ripping their heads off.
Yes, exactly. Almost like as if they were a plague.
Yeah.
A plague on the species. And so they were like banned. And they were told that they were no longer allowed to like procreate.
Yeah.
And so it definitely has something.
Because they went against the ethics. They went against the natural order. That's why. It's like the same thing that happened with Atlantis. They went against the natural order because they were experimenting with the DNA and making like mutated animals conjoined with humans. And that's like where we got like the mermaids, they say, from, and like the centaurs, the half man, the half horse. They were playing with the DNA. And like we're doing things because this is what was channeled by Dolores Cannons. They got bored and they started playing around with DNA and going against like the natural order, and that's what caused the cataclysm of Atlantis, because then like it was just it couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, I want to find it. I'll send it to you. There, like it had something to do with the Nephilim and Orion. And I think I have it in a picture in my phone, so I'll send it to you afterwards.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, though.
Yeah.
As always, it's such a pleasure to connect with you and really just kind of dive into all of it in terms of a discussion. I think it just helps clarify a lot of things. And yeah, so I really appreciate your perspective, your input.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Of course, we're going to catch up again. I do feel.
Yeah.
And
yes.
yeah, and then Kimber Kiss also does readings as well. Would you like to leave your information before we wrap up?
Sure. So I have my readings and different services that I offer just on my Etsy. And so you can either look up just Kimber Kiss readings, all one word, or you can just click on the link. And then I'm also available through my YouTube channel. It's just Kimber Kiss, one word. And through Instagram, it's at KimberKiss33. So those are probably the best places you can reach me or find me.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you, and
you.
namaste.
Namaste. Thanks for having me.